could have done this. Totally. But sometimes nobody else has noticed it other than you.
Yeah, I mean, so my business partner's like that. Stephanie Frankham, she's so hard on herself. And I went, look, you've got to sort of, it's good that you're hard on yourself. And I think the minute you stop questioning it, that's when you start messing up. That's when you start you're making mistakes, being overindulgent, you know, and all them sort of things. So you've got to get a balance, but at the same time, you've got to be proud of it. And you've got to also, it's, you know, I know when this comes out, people are going to liken it to Kill Bill and go, well, it ain't as good as Kill Bill. Of course it's not. That fight with the Yakuza took 3 months to film and cost, I think it was something like 9 times the budget of my film, you know?
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's I worked out that the final Harry Potter film, the budget of that would have paid. So the budget for Bermondsey Tales and the budget for Jackie would have paid for about 8 seconds of that final Harry Potter film. You know,
Wow.
so when you put it in perspective like that, and I'm new to it. You know, this is only my 3rd film. I didn't go to film school. I'm still very much learning. I've been lucky that I'm surrounded by a very, very good team, top to bottom, a very good team. But, you know, when people compare it to that, the fighting ain't as good as Marvel, of course it's not. Like, what you know, it's, if it was, then everyone at Marvel needs to be shot, not sacked, shot.
well, yeah, I mean, there's like you say, you've got high standards for yourself, realistic expectations. Hopefully the audience, the main thing is that they go away entertained and that they got something out of it. Like, for example, I went through a phase of watching quite a lot of sort of quote unquote gangster films, and I hadn't watched any for ages and ages. I think the hooliganism films kind of passed me by. I watched like ID when I was a kid, and like being a football fan, hooliganism films don't really jump out to me because I want to watch the football. But I started watching Gangster's Kiss and Bermondsey Tales, and I was like, oh, there's a whole new cast of young actors in this. It's it's often short scenes. If you didn't like that one, then you'll like the next one. For example, I went away from it thinking what a great job Charlie Clapham did. Like, I just thought he was great. I thought he was really, really good. And I was like, and then I got to see Bricktop, who hadn't, I got to see Alan Ford, God bless him. And I was just like, that's amazing. I got to see somebody who, I went and watched in the cinema in Snatch, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was 26 years ago. But so it must be great to work with these people and see them do something different. Like, for example, you just said there are people in your films who have maybe not acted before, and then there's ones like Alan Ford who have, you must be learning from at the same time. There's 2 completely different types of people you're working with.
Oh, mate, it's a dream. I don't get starstruck because I don't actually know a lot about film. I like what I like, but I'm very, when people say I'm widely read, I'm very thinly watched. I haven't seen it. But when we're there on set, and then so Scats was a real person. He was my granddad's mate, and so to have that brought to life by Alan Ford, and when he walked in, I'm like, oh, that's Alan Ford, and my first went up to him. He's vastly experienced. Hello, how are you? And I'm there like, I really know I've got to say something because I'm the director, but apart from like stroke his face and maybe make a noise, I don't know what to say.
Wow.
And you do get starstruck, and David Shaw from the Inbetweeners, he was not. I mean, he's actually one of the most versatile actors I've ever seen, but he'll always be known as the Inbetweeners guy. And again, when I was on stage with him, and then to work with him again in Gangster's Kiss, and then again in Bermondsey, and you're there and you're still like, I remember watching you as a younger man, like just laughing my tits off, So it is living the dream. And it is, Gary Webster was another one.
Totally. Wow. Yeah.
I loved Minder. Me too. And the first time I met him, he was in a stage play of mine. And we jumped on the tube. We was going up to North London. I can't remember the Pleasance in North London, and he's jumped on. So obviously I've recognised him because I've cast him, and he's Gary Webster, but he don't know who I am because I'm just. He don't know I'm just a writer. So I've looked at him, and I've looked at him too long, and he's looked at me, and you know, you think I've got to say something now, but I didn't.
Yes.
So I sort of, and then when we turned up at the theatre, I've turned up. And he went, "Oh, hello, you know, I see you on the tube. Yeah, staring at you like a weirdo." And then the next day, he found out that I actually wrote it as well.
Right.
And
yeah.
you know, and I was out for a beer with him the other day, and that's the other thing is, you know, David, Charlie, Dan, Gary, Vaz. You know, yeah. I'll get messages from hello brother, as the wife, as the girls, and I'm like, that's Vaz Blackwood. That's, you know, Rory Breaker, one of the most iconic. And so to get the chance to work with them and put your spin, like the story with a wig in Bermondsey, that was a true story. Happened in the
really?
Yeah, happened in Grove Park. Yeah, a guy. Edgar, his nickname was, and he bashed the life out of. He was an old fellow, and he bashed the life out of these two young boys.
Wow.
About 22, 23, they probably were. And he done one of them with a wig, and he parked him in between the car. Went into my granddad and went, "Sorry, Mick, this is your local." He went, "No, don't park." He went, "That's a liberty." He went, "Next time you park a fella in the car," he went, "Don't do it next to a micro." He went, "Park him next to a good car at least."
A good car, yeah.
To have the chance to do that is just a dream. And also to getting onto that sort of links it. With my granddad's life, it was always about humour. I don't like the football violence films. Simply because I don't buy it. I grew up in that world, and there was no way if you're doing a multi-million-pound drug deal, you're going to get nicked for punching someone because you're West Ham and he's Millwall. It just doesn't work like that. You know, it just, well, that's certainly not my granddad didn't associate with a football team because wearing a football shirt was a good way of getting identified, which is a good way of getting nicked.
Right.
So I grew up with that. And also the violence side of it. There was violence. Stories of people, you know, my granddad getting shot at, you know, and kidnapped. And you know, I'm not saying there weren't violence there, but the stories were always told with love. They was always told with affection. They was always told with humour, and there was a real honour there, like a real honour amongst these guys, because you can't have lawyers get involved, can't hide behind contracts, and if you do wrong, you can get nicked or get shot, or even worse, no one works for you again, and you end up poor and, you know, not working and isolated. So there was a lot of loyalty, and when I started doing the gangster films, I wanted to bring that side to it, that side of this ain't about violence, this ain't about being infamous, this is about people doing what they've got to do to provide for their families. And I'm not glorifying it, I'm not justifying it. That's, you know, that's what they do. And I just wanted to bring that side because these are people that I grew up with and people that I loved. They were my granddad, my family, my granddad's associates that, you know, even long after my granddad died, still looked after me, you know, out of respect. So, but it was always humour. Every story we had was humour. And when I did Bermondsey Tales and Gangster's Kiss, Gangster's Kiss I co-wrote, but so I only sort of had half a hand in that. But especially with Bermondsey Tales, I wanted to do something that was funny. You know, when working with Perry Benson, who is again,
he's so funny.
He's brilliant, and it's mad. When I met my wife, she gave me Love on the Bay and went, "You want to watch this?" I went, "It's one of my favourite films." And now Perry's like, you know, Perry come all the way to the arse end of Sig Cup for my wife's 40th, and we're sat in a social club getting drunk, having a party. You know, he's
hilarious. He's so funny in everything, in Operation Good Guys and things like that he did. And back in the day, you know, people don't mention that enough. But he's like in Sid and Nancy, and like you say, at Love, Honor and Obey. And his sister is so funny as well. She
Yeah,
plays.
yeah,
I spotted her straight away because she's behind the bar in one of your films, isn't she? She's
yeah.
yeah. I was like, I know you.
I mean, she's absolutely. I don't know her as well. I know her quite well, but Pell, like I said, I would consider him one of my best mates, which is mad.
Oh,
But he's just natural. With Gangster's Kiss, he rang me up with Mike. I broke my arm. And what he went, I fell off a table. He went, I weren't drunk. I mean, I don't give a fuck if you were drunk. We're filming in a few days. So I went to the director, Ray Burdis, who's another, he's an absolute genius. And I went, how about if we break Perry, like, put him in a cast and then we're stitching him up? He went, yeah, it's a great idea. And I went, good, because he's broke his arm. Well, I went, no, you've agreed to it now.
Yeah, creative idea.
Yeah, but when he's just naturally a funny guy. And in Jackie, I deliberately wanted to cast him in Jackie to set the tone. He's the first villain that we see, and he's the first sort of violence, and he's the first conflict. And I wanted to set the tone with an out-and-out comedy character, because if you watch Perry and go, I don't like that, then this film ain't for you. And that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
So that gets your audience. You've got your audience straight away. You know who's going to be into it.
Yeah. And he's just naturally funny. The spin that's obviously the Irish film, 90% of that is improv. A bit like Operation Good Guys, a bit like Love on the Bay. It was largely improv. And I sort of learned from Ray, learned from Pell that it works. And we did that with a spin, which was a dream for me to do an improv film. But on Jackie, we're sitting there and I'm just listening to him, and he's chatting to the two fellas. One's a strong man who he represents the UK as a strong man. The other one, Mikey, Tomo's a strong man. And Mike's, I think he's 6'5".
He's in the chats. Yeah, Tomo Thomas. He's in the chat.
Tomo Thomas. There he is. Love you, mate. So he's with a UK strongman, and Tom he's another one. He's just naturally a funny guy. And Michael McQueen, who's 6'5", and Pell's sitting there, and he's just, you two are big fellas, aren't you? And as they was chatting, I went to the end of lunch. I went, can you remember it? They went, yeah, because we're going to put that in the film. Right. And there's a bit where I won't too much spoilers, but they put a death sentence on Perry, and they're going to take him off to execute him. And they just burst into this chat that they was chatting about at lunch. And it's so absurd, but it's so funny. And they're the moments in the film that I love. That's for me. Yeah.